All right, looks like we're live. Welcome everyone to the community Q&A. My name is Daniel Holbach. I'm here together with Ellen Pope and Rohan Garg today. And you can watch this, if you're watching this from ubuntuonair.com, you see a chat widget below the video where you just enter your favorite nickname, and then you can join the conversation and ask all the questions you have. If you use IRC, if you have an IRC client, just point it to Ubuntu on Air on Freenode, and again, ask all the questions you have. Just make sure you prefix them with question in capital letters so they stand out and we can pick them up more easily. Ellen, anything I forgot?
No, I don't think so. We usually rotate around different people each week, so sometimes you'll see David and Michael, sometimes you'll see myself, Daniel, or whoever from the community team, and sometimes we have guests on. This week we have Rohan. And so if you ask questions, we'll save those up. If you have any specifically for Rohan, then we'll throw those in. I'll keep an eye on the IRC channel and throw those in as we're going. And anything not related to that we can deal with later, and if Rohan wants to leave after he's finished his stuff, he's more than welcome to, and we'll carry on, or whatever's best.
Right. Brilliant. All right. I think we can then just start with Rohan. Rohan, what have you been working on in the last time? What have you been doing generally in the Ubuntu project? How did you get here?
All right. Well, hi everyone. I'm Rohan. I work primarily on Kubuntu, which is the KDE flavor of Ubuntu. And my primary work with Kubuntu has been to package KDE and to get you the latest and greatest packages as soon as they're released, possibly even on release day, if not as soon as we can get them to you. And over the last couple of months, as you know, or like maybe you don't know, but we have KDE frameworks coming out. We had KDE frameworks come out, and then we had a release of Plasma 5, which is the next iteration of the Plasma desktop. So over the last couple of months, I have been busy packaging KDE Frameworks 5. We now have KDE Frameworks 5 in the Utopic archive, so woohoo! And we have Plasma 5 in our Kubuntu Next PPA. We don't plan to put them in the archive right now because KDE upstream advises that these are not for production use packages yet. So our plan is to gradually roll these out via the PPA, monitor the PPA for any issues, any obvious issues that come up, get them solved with the amazing team we have, and then have a really, really good Plasma 5 experience in maybe 15.04, maybe 15.10. Let's see how that works out. But yeah, that's the plan. That's what I've been doing, and that's the plan for the next couple of months.
So if someone is installing Utopic, which will become 14.10, what can they expect in 14.10, knowing that you've got all this new funky stuff coming in 15.04? What can they expect from 14.10 for now?
Right. So 14.10 will be the very stable experience, primarily because it is just a continuation of the KDE 4 desktop that we had in 14.04. We're going to stick with KDE 4 for the official 14.10 release. For new things, we will definitely have things like a new release of the Muon package manager, which will have some nice new features. We are trying to make it a really, really good stable base so that people can, if people do not like the Plasma 5 experience, or if they don't, if it's not really working out for them, they can keep and stick with their well-known comfort zone, and it will look and feel exactly like what we've had in 14.04, with some minor improvements, the usual slew of bug fixes and everything. However, we're taking leaps and bounds with the Plasma 5 ISO. While the desktop experience is the same, everything underneath has changed. So the entire technology stack that was being used earlier has been replaced with QML, and everything is graphics accelerated, and you will have nice transparencies, and overall, the desktop should feel snappier.
So with 1404, it's a you could say it's a bug fix and polish of 1410 is a bug fix and polish and a few new features on top of 1404, right?
Yes,
and then
correct. Yes.
Future 1504, sometime in the future, there'll be the new Plasma desktop.
Yes.
You mentioned a PPA and an ISO. Tell us more about the PPA and the ISO if people do want to try that stuff out now.
Right. So I announced the ISO yesterday on my blog. It was on Planet Ubuntu and on Planet KDE. And basically, for the last week or so, I have been working on this Ubuntu Plasma 5 ISO, which what it does is it takes the Utopic base and the frameworks that we have in the Utopic archive and adds the Plasma desktop, Plasma 5 shell on top of Utopic. So it gives you the base, the stock Plasma 5 experience, the 5.0 release that we had this month, and it just takes that stock release, puts it on an ISO in a nice and easy way for you to try out. And that's what I released yesterday, and so far the response has been pretty awesome. I mean, we had quite a lot of people downloading it and testing it out, and overall the response just seems positive. So there are obvious bugs to fix over there because it's like the first iteration of the next product. So there's some very obvious bugs. Some applications don't really feel like they're from some applications still Qt 4, and we will eventually port those applications to Qt 5. So they don't look that good together as on a regular Qt 4 desktop. But obviously those bugs will be worked out in the next couple of months. And the desktop itself is all Qt 5 and all QML. And the response so far I've had is it just feels much more snappier for everyone.
That's good to hear. So you'll be continuing to push fixes to the packages in the PPA. So if someone adds the PPA or they use that ISO, they're going to continue to get updates through the next how long? What's your expectation of the life of that PPA, and what could people expect if they install that?
Right. So what our plan is to continue developing for Utopic till, I suppose, like till the lifespan of Utopic. So they will in fact even get feature releases, which is something that is not possible with the regular Ubuntu archive, because after the release, as you know, you can't put in new features into the archive. However, with this PPA mechanism, you will get bug fix releases as well as new features. And at least my plan is to support it till the end of the Utopic lifecycle, so till the next 9 months. And for 1504, depending on the response that we get for 1410 and Plasma 5, we will then evaluate whether or not we want 1504 as the default, or do we want to continue using KDE4 till 1504 comes out. Hopefully, at least this is something that I really hope that I would really like to see Plasma 5 in 1504. But let's see. It depends completely on the response and how well we can get issues sorted out with KDE upstream, which has been actually a pretty amazing experience so far. For example, I report a bug and it gets fixed within 2 to 3 days.
Brilliant. Yeah, we just had a question coming up from Mike Hall. He asked, how does the Kubuntu project work with upstream KDE and Qt? Do you just integrate what they provide, or do you push a lot of original work back up to them?
Right. So the thing is, most of the Kubuntu developers are also KDE developers, so we actually have commit rights in KDE. So what we try and do is, if we require a new feature or if we require any sorts of new things, we try and implement them in KDE itself instead of having Kubuntu-specific patches. Except where it makes to have distribution integration patches, then we of course only have them in Kubuntu. So it's primarily like all of us are KDE developers as well, and we try and push fixes upstream as in. So we do occasionally write patches for critical bugs that we discover when using Ubuntu. So yeah, it's a pretty much give and take relationship. We take the software and we give back bug fixes.
Brilliant. Oh, it's really, really great to hear. You said you're not sure if Plasma 5 is going to make it into 1504. but it's in the PPA already. What do you feel is blocking your progress to get into your topic?
Right. I've been using Plasma 5 on a daily basis at my work computer, on my personal computer, and so far I haven't seen any major issues, to be honest. There are, of course, minor issues and the occasional crash. Uh, but so far, it has been a really, really stable experience. And I personally don't foresee any issues with the shell itself, like the Plasma shell, the Plasma desktop itself. Uh, Applications are still being ported, which is somewhat of a blocker. So some of
Of
the
course.
applications are Qt 4 and some of them are Qt 5. We are in the process of having all the applications that we ship by default as Qt 5. That's going to take a bit of time, and I'm not entirely sure of the time frame that it fits into 1504. So if we can manage to get that together and give a good experience, and have not have any major blockers as such, I would really like to have Plasma 5 as the default in 1504.
And do you know what um, Alan
Sorry.
is just? You can go first as well if you like.
So, are you expecting, if people are running the PPA or your magical new ISO, are you expecting them to use that on production environments? I know the standard caveat applies, and you shouldn't use beta software on a production environment, but you know what our user base are like. Are you expecting them to do that, and that to help you get to the point where you could confidently say this is ready to go into 1504, for example?
Well, I mean, basically the commit empty comes from KDE upstream itself. So KDE upstream has labeled it as, not ready for production yet. It's the first iteration. Give it some time to mature. In a couple of months, we will have a much better working product. And it's so as soon as KDE says, yep, this is ready to go into production, we will try our level best, get it into the hands of the users, get it out there and have people using it full time. So some of the responsibility, of course, lies with KDE as well. Once they remove KDE time to that, yep, this is ready to go. We think it's stable enough to use on everyone's system. Then we will lift the embargo, so to say, and push it into the archive.
Cool. So people who liked Kubuntu up until now, who have been using KDE 4 for a while now, what can they look forward to? What did you like best about moving your work environment to Plasma 5, or what were the big motivations about bringing up Plasma to the table?
Right. So one of the big motivations, I believe, to get Plasma 5 out there was QML. There was a lot of focus on being based on Qt 5 and being based on QML itself, because the way it has been explained to me, QML is completely, it is a graphically accelerated environment where everything runs on the GPU, and so the desktop is supposed to feel snappier because it's using the GPU to do things faster. So that was one of the big pushes. The other one was, of course, to have all the new stuff that Qt 5 has to offer, and have all of those nice new APIs, those nice desktop integration APIs. Plus, one of the big things that happened was before Plasma 5 came out, we had frameworks come out. So those frameworks are basically add-ons on top of Qt. So those are not KDE specific things. Those are just add-ons on top of Qt that any Qt developer can use. In fact, KDE also pushed a lot of the API into Qt itself. So KDE libs, so to say, we had this one really big package called KDE libs earlier, which was the core API that KDE offered. And now we've split it into these 63 new packages, and these are basically add-ons to Qt now. And one of the big things with Plasma 5 was to make use of Qt 5, all the APIs that we pushed into Qt 5, and and have the frameworks as sort of an enhancement KDE thing. So, like for example, we have a framework called KArchive, which allows you to deal with all the tarballs and all sorts of compression algorithms and whatnot. And that's just a really nice API for Qt developers to use. So yeah, that's one of the big things was using KDE frameworks, using Qt 5, and using QML. Personally, the best thing I like about the Plasma 5 release is they have this new team called the VDG, the Visual Design Group. So KDE now has a dedicated group of designers who are sort of like designing the theme and designing the look and feel of the desktop. Um, and they've done a really good job. I mean, so if you first boot into the Plasma 5 session, you will notice a very modern, flat-looking theme, which is what is the trend these days. All the websites are using, a flat theme, and that's what they've adopted, and they've adopted that into the desktop. And that's, for me personally, the visual changes are the best. So we've also reworked the system tray, for example. It is much more nicer now, and it gives you what you need within a couple of clicks. So the overall look is what I really, really like.
So would you say that the Kubuntu 14.10 plus your PPA or your ISO will be a vanilla KDE Plasma experience? Would that be? Would it be not differentiating too far, deviating too far from what upstream have envisaged Plasma should look like?
Right, and I think that's always been the case with Kubuntu, because one of our policies says, ship the default artwork, ship with the default look and feel what KDE ships upstream. So even when you try out KDE 4 on Ubuntu 14.04, it's a very, very vanilla KDE experience, and that's what we hope to have in Plasma 5 as well, to have the vanilla Plasma 5 experience that upstream KDE developers have envisioned and what the visual design group has envisioned, and that's what they want their product to look like. And since we are delivering that product to end users, we want to keep it as vanilla as possible. That's what Ubuntu is really all about. It's providing a vanilla KDE flavor of Ubuntu.
And you've been working on this quite hard. I understand if you're splitting KDE libs out to 60, however many packages. That's set yourself a job for life there to keep those maintained. What other than the amount of volume of work you've had to do, what sort of challenges have you had getting these packages ready over the last few months?
Right. So I wasn't really involved in the splitting of KDE libs as such. Those were my colleagues at Blue Systems, and they were the ones pushing all of the code into Qt and splitting it out, making sure everything is ABI stable. Because once frameworks released, they could not sort of change the API in ABI, because frameworks guarantees API and ABI stability. So they have to make sure all of the API was nice and it met all the KDE standards and was as close to Qt as possible. So it's I think one of the big challenges for them was getting their stuff into Qt. The Qt community was pretty amazing to work with. I sent a couple of my patches to upstream Qt as well. But like obviously the Qt project has a different agenda sometimes, and sometimes the KDE project has a little bit of a different agenda. So of course there were discussions about things over there, and I imagine it will be difficult for some KDE developers to get things in there. But like on the integration side of things, I can only speak about the integration side of things, which is basically all of the libraries had to be redone in the sense of packaging, because we do not have split packaging for each of the source packages. So dealing with 63 new source packages is a bit time consuming, making sure they're all up to Debian quality standards, they all meet Debian quality standards. So it's kind of, it's a big task, so to say. That was the big thing, like just the sheer number of things that we had to package, I believe.
Cool. We had a couple of questions on IRC. One from Mike Hall says, besides working on KDE and packages, what other things can people do to contribute to Kubuntu? Are there things for non-developers that could help you?
I think we sort of lack in the documentation area, to be honest. So it would
like
be
every open source project ever.
Right. So while we sort of like derive all of our documentation from upstream KDE, even in KDE there is a lack of people who are documenting new things, and developers like to write new features, and then we need some people to document those new features. But we don't have the number of people who are developing versus the number of people who are actually documenting things is very skewed. So it would be nice to have new people who are documenting things. Translations is another place where people can definitely help out, and new translators are always welcome. We want our software to be localized in all the languages that are out there, and to have people use KDE Plasma 5 on the desktop in their local language. So translators would be very welcome as well.
And where is the translation work happening for Kubuntu in Launchpad, or do you do that upstream in some KDE tools?
Right. The transition to Plasma 5, you mean?
No, language translations.
Language translations, right. So KDE has their own infrastructure for language translations. So if you're contributing to KDE upstream translations, you will have to go to the upstream page. Whereas we actually have some of our software in KDE as well, but it's translated in Launchpad. So all of the Kubuntu specific software is actually hosted by KDE, but translated in Launchpad.
Right.
So which is actually very like 3-4 packages, I think, is what we have. Not a lot.
Cool. We have another question. Sorry,
I just wanted to quickly ask something about contributions. Could you imagine that with Plasma using QML much more, that it's going to be easier to contribute to the core of Kubuntu?
Sure. I mean, well, the core of Kubuntu is basically KDE, and we have very little packages on top. So the core of KDE would now be frameworks, and then you have Plasma 5 on top of frameworks. So depending upon your area of expertise, or whichever fancies you, KDE frameworks are all about libraries and making sure, which I believe are all in C++ and with using Cube 5. So, and Plasma 5 is all about QML, and it has C++ in there, of course, as well, but it's all focused about having the best Plasma 5 desktop experience with QML. So it depends on if you want to contribute, and if you're more comfortable with QML, I would recommend contributing to Plasma 5. If you're more comfortable with C++ and just like libraries in general, the low-level stuff, frameworks is the way to go.
Excellent. And there was also, before Alan reads the next question, there was also Psycho Squid saying, just want to say thanks, guys, for being part of making the best operating system ever. Yeah. Yeah.
We had another question that said, I heard KDE 5 will adapt the UI to the hardware. So, for example, touch and keyboard, so I guess that means detecting what form factor it's on, which sounds really interesting. Is this correct? And if so, what applications are planned for that?
Right, so that is one of the things that Plasma 5 is aiming at, is hardware adaptation. So, for example, if you have sort of a touchscreen laptop and then it's like detachable from the rest of your keyboard, one of the things that Plasma 5 wants to do is have sort of like automatic keyboard detection, and it can adjust the UI accordingly to your needs. As soon as it detects a new keyboard has been plugged in, I should adapt to this change. So that is something that Plasma 5 developers want to do, have something in Plasma 5 like that. Currently, I think there is some level of integration, but it's not fully polished. So there's still some work to be done in that particular area. Just a small correction, there is no KDE 5, so to say, anymore. KDE is the community, and Plasma 5 and Frameworks 5 are the products.
I'm impressed that we got 24 minutes in before you had to say that. Well, I was expecting that in the first 30 seconds or so. Awesome. Michael's got another question. With the end of the Vivaldi improv project, what's going to happen to Plasma Active? Do you think the mobile device work that's gone into Ubuntu phone and tablet could be used to produce Kubuntu images with Plasma Active?
Well, specifically talking about Plasma Active, I'm not exactly sure about the status of that project. However, how we're going towards having some sort of integration with touchscreen devices and everything with Plasma 5, I expect there would be some level of Plasma Active components Plasma Active features coming into Plasma Desktop, Plasma Shell. And so I expect there to be some level of integration with touchscreen devices and high DPI support, for example, and everything. So, but especially talking about Plasma Active, I'm not entirely sure what's going to happen with Plasma Active. In fact, I don't recall any discussions about it as well so far. The team has been purely focused on getting Plasma Shell out for the regular desktops. Regarding the other part of the question, you think that mobile devices
could use? I think that's saying, could they use some of the framework that's been built up to make the Ubuntu Touch device, and then something like Plasma on top of that? Could that happen?
I believe the big blocker for that one is Mir, because Plasma Shell does not work on Mir, but we will be talking towards VLAN. So I believe that might be a big blocker, but sure. I mean, if you guys want to, if the foundations can be switched as easily as just replacing Mir with VLAN, I would love to see a Ubuntu phone running Plasma Desktop, for example. So that would be pretty awesome.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah.
Groovy. I can't see any other specific questions about KDE. If anyone has any, then the IRC channel is ubuntu-on-air. If you're at ubuntuonair.com, you'll see the chat box below the video there as well.
One of my colleagues just added that Plasma Active has an active maintainer as part of GSOC, and someone is actually porting it to Qt 5 and Plasma 5. So there you go. There will be a port of Plasma Active to Qt 5.
Excellent. Excellent. So that's a Google Summer of Code project over this summer, I guess.
Yes. Yes.
Excellent.
Yeah, I have a quick question. How did you get involved in Ubuntu or on packaging or with KDE? How did it all happen? Like, I can imagine that a bunch of people are sitting there now watching the video and just wonder, what does it take? How do I get there?
So I actually joined in during the 4.0 transition. So it's been like a complete 4.0 to 5.0 in quite some time, and so I joined back when I was starting university, and I was just playing around with this thing called Ubuntu, and then I noticed that there was another flavor of it called Kubuntu, and I was like, okay, let's try it out. I've tried out Ubuntu. I quite enjoyed using it, so I said, well, let's try out Kubuntu, and I enjoyed it even more back then. It had these shiny new panels and lots of transparency and glossy stuff, and I was quite into that sort of stuff back then. And I was like, yeah, this is a cooler desktop to work with. And what happened was the 4.0 transition did not really go that well, to be honest. So, and I would break my system every couple of days, upgrading things and stuff. And then I hopped onto IRC, this thing called IRC, and I had never heard of IRC back in, I don't know, 2008, 2009. I had never heard of IRC. And I go on to Hash Kubuntu and start talking to another Kubuntu contributor called Miriam. And I said, yeah, my system is broken, what did I do wrong? And she told me, that's a bug, and you should try and get the Kubuntu developers to fix it. And then I hopped into Hash Kubuntu Devel, and Harold Sitter and Jonathan Riddle, both of them, started teaching me how to fix the bug. It took me a couple of days to figure out Debian packaging, just get the basics of it. And it is like, I fixed a bug in Kubuntu. Where's the next one that I can fix? And I just started doing, regular support in Hash Kubuntu, coming across problems, and then sending off packaging fixes to Harold or Jonathan, and they would upload my fixes. And suddenly I was Kubuntu member, and I was attending my first UDS at Orlando, UDSN, if I'm not I believe. And then I met all of these amazing people. I met you, Daniel, and I met Alan, and I met quite a lot of people at UDSN, and I got even more motivated to work in Kubuntu and fix things. And eventually, what happened a couple of years ago, as soon as I graduated, I got hired by Blue Systems to work on Kubuntu full time. So that was the best thing, working on something that you've been working on for the last 2 years and you absolutely love. That's something else.
You mentioned the KDE 4 things that we don't mention from the past.
Yeah.
Do you think the KDE project has learned from that and is doing things differently with Plasma 5 and the way that you're shipping Plasma 5 is affected by lessons learned from KDE 4?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one of the big lessons we learned was don't change a lot of things too suddenly, and this is Plasma 5 is just a continuation of Plasma 1 or KDE 4, so to say, the KDE 4 desktop, so to say. It's just an evolution of that, and we haven't changed your desktop workflows. Your desktop workflows are exactly the same as they were in KDE 4. So if you had a certain set of things that you had to do in KDE 4 in a certain way, you will have the exact same workflow in Plasma 5. So we haven't changed any of that. What we have changed is the underlying desktop stack, and trying to get Plasma 5 as close to Plasma 1 and KDE 4 as it was in KDE SE 4.13 or 4.14. So getting the experience as close to as what we had in the SE4, the exact same features, the exact same workflows. We've tried to preserve all of that and make more of an evolution rather than a huge change all at once, dumped all at once. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Do you have a few screenshots or something people could look at, or did we just send them to Kubuntu? Or you have something you can show now?
I don't have anything on my screen right now, but hold on.
Okay. If not, we can just share a couple of links.
Right. So here you go. Okay, just a second. Let's see. Where's the chat? All right, I'll paste them on the IRC channel.
Brilliant.
That's YouTube video for the next Plasma iteration of the desktop. So those are like two videos of what Plasma 5 looks like right now, and what our release, the first release of Plasma 5 looks like.
We'll add these links into the description for this video, so if anyone's watching it later, they can follow the links beneath the video and see those. But for anyone in the chat, they're in the IRC channel now. Thank you for those.
Brilliant. Yeah, so people know what to look forward to.
Yep.
I don't think we had any more questions. I didn't have any. Did you, Daniel?
Personally, not. I think there were a couple of questions about Wayland and Mir. Well, we use none of them currently, or at least on the desktop, we use none of them right now. Maybe you can talk a bit about that, like right now.
Right. I believe Wayland support for Plasma 5 is a good 4 to 6 months away. However, we've talked about this extensively in the past, and we've talked about this in the KDE community and in the Ubuntu community. And in the Ubuntu community specifically, I've been given assurances that Wayland will be supported in the sense of, Wayland will work, and it will coexist with Mir. And I hope so. We will find that out 6 months from now, I guess, or 6 months from now. Hopefully, we won't have any issues. Well, not too many issues. So let's see. But I really can't comment on it a lot. But all I know is 4 to 6 months from now should work. Let's see.
Yeah. So sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but I just thought the question came up.
Right, that's all I know about it as well. The thing is, it's non-existent. And Wayland support is currently so one of my colleagues actually showed off KDE running under Weston. I can give you the link for that YouTube video later on as well. And it works. So it with Weston, which is like Wayland client, it works. We will have Quinn as a Wayland client 6 months from now, is what I've been told.
Brilliant.
Cool.
Let's have another quick look. Are there any more questions about KDE, Kubuntu, Plasma, or anything else?
are the present NVIDIA binary drivers compatible with the existing VLAN? I have no clue.
Same here.
I don't exactly work with the X11 stack or like the VLAN stack on my as part of my day job, so I really do not know. That question should probably be directed towards the Ubuntu X11 team, or maybe the NVIDIA team working on those drivers.
Right.
Sounds good. Right, Alan, do you have
Anything else you wanted to mention or talk about or promote or direct people to, Rohan?
Right. Please go and try out the ISOs that we released yesterday, and please provide us feedback. And we're always waiting your feedback. Please report any bugs to bugs.kd.org that we might find in Plasma, and let's make this Plasma 5 release a really awesome drop-in release. I really hope you like it.
Excellent. Thanks, Rohan.
All right. Yeah, thanks so much.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Rohan. Cheers.
Bye.
Take care.
You too.
Cool. What a nice guy.
That was brilliant.
Cool. So, have we got any questions left that are not KDE or Ubuntu related?
Yeah. I think there was one. I don't know if it was just a joke question or if they were seriously asking this seriously. Something about Canonical and why is it so awesome? Was at the very start. Do you want to comment or shall I?
I couldn't possibly comment, but yes, everyone I work with is awesome.
It's a lot of fun. For me, it's a good continuation of working in the Ubuntu project. It's just so much fun working together with all these people here. I mean, once you work for Canonical, there's also tough times. There's also a few projects you like a bit less than others. So it's not all fun and games, but it's still brilliant working with people from all around the globe. What I enjoy a lot is working with the local teams we have. So at some stage you talk to somebody from the local team of Iran, and then you talk to somebody else in India, and then talk to somebody else in Colombia. It's just fantastic. You would probably not meet these kind of people, and they're all brilliant. They bring passion and enthusiasm, and that's just fantastic to see.
Yeah, I'll echo what Rohan was saying. It's cool to be able to work in your day job on something that you've been, playing with in your spare time or contributing to in your spare time. And I spent some years contributing to Ubuntu before I started working for Canonical, and it's still just as much fun when you're inside the sausage factory as when you're outside. No, we don't make sausages. Any other questions? Should we buzz through and just check? There's one from Nakanut asking which browsers in 14.10, if any, will have full HTML5 support. It's really hard to say because it depends on your definition of HTML5, which seems like a gelatinous blob that isn't really specific enough. If you mean can you run web apps on Ubuntu, yes, you can in the standard browser, and you can run things that use HTML video and HTML audio and WebGL and all those kind of things that you would recognize as HTML5 features. But I don't think we have like a HTML5 rubber stamp that goes on the browser that says, this is HTML5 compliant, because we're really packaging up other people's browsers. What we have in Ubuntu is Firefox, Chrome, and the ability to install other browsers like Opera. So it's no different than any other Linux distro in that regard, really.
Yeah, what saw a lot of work recently was Oxide, and I can't remember the exact values, but there's this one, what's it called, the something test, the acid test, no?
Acid, yeah.
Yeah, So
there's also one called html5test.com, which is a good one, and I sometimes run on my phone now and then, and it's nice to see Oxide, which is the browser we're using on the phone, getting nice high figures up there, comparable with every other standard desktop browser and phone browser as well. So yeah, that's a good one to run, html5test.com. We had a question from Fish246. When will Ubuntu Desktop and Ubuntu Server 12.04 be able to upgrade to 14.04.1 via Update Manager? You know the answer to this, don't you?
Yeah, I just asked Michael Vogt, just pinged him while we were talking, and he said there was a small bug in the release upgrader, which has been fixed, and this should be working now. So if you want to update to 14.04, you'll get the latest and greatest, which was just released as a new ISO. So the 14.04.1 will include all the latest security updates, so you can update straight to that. And we would also advise anyone who's still running Saucy, which was the 13.10 release, to update as well, because it has reached its end of life. And you're going to get 5 years of support on Trusty on 14.04. So make sure you upgrade to that as soon as you can. Update Manager should just let you do it. So just click the button.
Excellent. I can't see any more questions. I think the release update you were talking about, is that a fix to Update Manager in 12.04? So if someone's on 12.04, they need to be up to date on 12.04, then rerun Update Manager, and that should get the prompt then for updating to 14.04. Is that right?
Yes. So the bug number, for anyone who wants all the gory details, that's 1347964. I'll just paste that link into the channel. It was a bug in the Ubuntu release upgrader, which is used by Ubuntu by Update Manager. Sorry. So this should be working now. And the case was 12.04.
Okay, cool.
But it was just updated 2 or 3, fixed 2 or 3 hours ago, so that's probably why it didn't work earlier. One small thing I also wanted to mention, once I find my notes. Oh yeah, it's the Ubuntu Online Summit. We talked about this a couple of times already. The Online Summit, earlier it was called the UDS, the Ubuntu Developer Summit, is what we use to plan the next few months of work that goes into Ubuntu. It all happens, for those of you who haven't attended it yet, it all happens publicly. It's all in Google Hangouts on IRC. That's where the discussions happen. And all the teams and whoever's interested join the sessions and figure out what needs doing and assign work items for the next few months. And we had a couple of conversations because the format evolved over time, and we wanted to bring the summit dates back in line with our release cycle. So shortly after we release 14.10, which is end of end of October, we're going to have the Ubuntu Online Summit. That's going to be November 12th to 14th. So make sure you're there. And we're also having a discussion on discourse.ubuntu.com about the general format. So if you have any feedback about how it worked out for you, or any suggestions, changes you can think of, let us know there. Anything else, Alan? No? Okay. Okay, here's a question from Yosarianuk. Uh, will Ubuntu ever change their policy on the NVIDIA driver to have a package of the latest stable NVIDIA driver? Always seemed mad that the version of the driver with known bugs in was kept back in the name of stability.
Well, you could say the same thing about any package in the archive. In that, until any package that's in the archive may have bugs in it. Many do, and that includes the NVIDIA binary driver. At some point, someone needs to update those packages, and it is possible for those packages to be updated to fix bugs, and then push those updates down to stable releases via the SRU mechanism, stable release update. So I don't think the NVIDIA driver is anything special. I think it has particular focus amongst people who want who have problems with their hardware, or people who want the maximum number of frames per second for gaming, for example, or they want to switch on some shader option that's only in the very latest version of a driver or something. And that gives it special visibility. But in the same way that someone might complain about their spreadsheet not rendering correctly in LibreOffice, that's a bug, and someone needs to package that up and produce a stable release update. And we're happy to welcome more people to help us do that. It's not necessarily that we have to do those things. We welcome community contributions to maintain all those packages, including the NVIDIA driver. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah, it is. And I just want to reiterate how much work goes into things like this. The graphics driver, they just have such a huge impact on everything else. Sometimes it's, as Alan said, a LibreOffice rendering bug. Sometimes it's an issue you just have with an external monitor, and sometimes with just a very specific version of a chip. So it's just very hard to figure out what a problem might be. So the testing for updated drivers, it just takes a bit longer, especially when it's closed source drivers, where we can't just verify that something in the code is working now, but we just have to try it out in a lot of different use cases. So if you're interested in that, I would recommend you have a chat with Alberto Milone. You can find him on IRC. His nickname is T.S. Eliot. So just ping him and find out what the plans are. But as Alan said, the packages are not different from any others, but they just require a lot of verification and certification work.
And the worst thing we can do is to just push updates without testing, and have users report to us that I've done the system updates and now I reboot and I've got a black screen. That's just that's the worst state we can leave someone in, an unusable machine after they've just done their regular daily update cycle, and that kind of thing can happen, and I know does happen for some people, not just with the NVIDIA driver. I've had it with the Intel driver, happens with AMD, happens with them all. And so we need to rigorously test these things before we push them out, and that's the same for any package.
Great.
Cool.
Somebody wanted to know which headset you're using.
Me? It's not a headset. It's a pair of headphones. I got them for my birthday. They're Philips. I think it's SB9100 or something like that. They're actually Bluetooth, but Bluetooth on Linux sucks. So I have a cable plugged in. So they are actually Bluetooth headphones, and I do sometimes use them when connected to other devices like an Android tablet or an iPad or something like that. But when I use it on Linux, I plug a cable in because I know it will work and it won't just time out and die on me partway through. Yeah, it's.
And this was a very good demonstration of us not being censored. As you heard what Alan said, Bluetooth on Linux sucks.
Yep, absolutely.
All right.
Next question.
Yeah, next question. Basil asked, will you port the SDK to non-Linux systems?
P.S.
I
Nice
don't
people.
think that's. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon, because we have a lot of work going, not only the SDK, which is based on Qt Creator, plus all the plugin work that is going on there, but there's a lot of other bits and pieces that feed into it, like the emulator and all the different tools to publish something to the phone. And it's just very, very hard to port all of this to, let's say, Windows or Mac and make sure that it always works. Theoretically, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, I know. I've spoken to Zoltan about this, who runs the SDK team, and we've talked about this a number of times. And like you say, his team are very busy getting the SDK, perfect, running on Ubuntu. That they just don't have the time, and in fact, none of them. I don't think any of them own a Mac. So porting to a Mac is somewhat difficult when you don't own one. But time and resources is the big pressure. But I'm pretty sure if someone stepped up and wanted to try and port it and had a go and looked at where all the points are, where we've got Ubuntu specific stuff in there, because I know there's probably shell scripts and other things that are very Ubuntu specific. If someone wanted to go through and audit that and come up with some suggestions on how we can make it cross-platform, I think probably the easiest target would be the Mac, because it has Bash and loads of other bits and bobs installed by default, and Qt Creator, there's a nice, easily installable package for that. But I can't see that happening, within the next few months because we're just too busy. But if someone else wanted to step up and try porting it across to the Mac, I'm sure that would be most welcome.
Yeah, and Qt Creator should work on a lot of these platforms. So Qt works on Windows, on the Mac. So that would be a starting point. But until then, I think everyone can just use a virtual machine, like VirtualBox, for example. We provide an image. If you go on developerubuntu.com, we link the image from there, so you get the latest stable release and can just start working. Okay, it looks like we're getting a lot of nonsensical questions now.
Yeah,
to go.
Yeah. So we'll stay here for a couple more minutes because we're almost out of time. If there are no more vaguely same questions, then
yeah, keep the questions coming, and also if you have any suggestions, like something we should talk about in one of the next episodes, let us know. We'll make sure that we invite some experts and get them to demo something nice. And also something that Jose keeps on reminding me: follow Ubuntu on Air on YouTube and also on Google+, and you get all the latest notifications about shows that happened in the past or upcoming shows. So make sure you follow them.
Yeah, and we don't tend to abuse those. It's only used for these community team hangouts and a few other Q&As. If Mark Shuttleworth does a Q&A or Rick Spencer does one, we don't tend to spam that channel with loads of videos. It's good quality content.
All right, that's at least everything I had.
Yep, I don't think we had anything else on the docket for this week. So we'll be back next week, Tuesday at 1500 UTC, and it will be probably Nick Skaggs and I don't know. Let's nominate Michael next week.
Brilliant.
I think whoever's in gets the right to nominate who's going to be doing it next week. There we go. That was easy.
Sounds good to me.
Cool. Well, thanks,
All
Daniel.
right then. Yeah, thank you. A great time. And see you soon again. Take care.
Cheers, buddy.
Bye.